Hey everybody, Jeff here from Classic Plastics Toy Store. I just figured today I'd give a little review of something that we keep in stock here. It's called the old school ClassiQ 3. I'm assuming you pronounce it ClassiQ, has a Q on the end there. Or you can say Classic. Not so fancy, but still good. But yeah, so this thing is pretty cool because it's capable of playing your NES, SNES, and Genesis games in either HD or AV. So that means you can play it on an old TV, or you can hook it up to like an LCD monitor through HDMI and get a nice crisp, modern display with your old games. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. I've gone through and taken all the packaging off of this already, so we can kind of dig in there easily. So it comes with this nice box. It would be kind of nice to use this as a carrying case for the console if it had a handle. It doesn't have a handle though. But yeah, it just kind of opens up over here, and you get to see how nice everything looks inside. A lot of people compare this to like a Retron, and I think it's comparable to a Retron, but to me, in some ways, I played around with it a little bit, and I think it's a little bit better. Honestly, I think it just looks better. Whenever you power it on, it's got this nice LED here and through here, all around on the outside of the console, and it lights up. That looks nice. A lot of people say, oh, it's overkill, I don't really need that, but it's a nice little touch. So as you can see, we've got power here, reset here, clicky, it all feels pretty solid, pretty good. I'd compare it with like maybe, feels kind of like the build quality of like a Genesis 2 mixed with a Super Nintendo. Plastic's alright. So here we've got a slot for the Genesis games, your SNES games, NES games, and also to choose which one. The weird thing about it is, this is one thing that I would say maybe they could have done better. You choose which game you're using through the power button here. It's got a slider switch, and you can slide it up. First spot is Genesis, second spot's SNES, third spot's NES. Just kind of the same order that these go in. On front, you've got outputs or inputs for all of your different classic controllers here. You've got Super Nintendo, and Genesis. You can also choose, your button type here, whether you're using SNES or over here is NES, SNES, and Genesis. I don't know why that's there really, I haven't looked that up. So on the back, we've got all kinds of stuff going on here. We've got the slider for the LED, which powers that on and off. You don't need to keep it on. So if you're in a dark room and it's kind of bugging your eyes, you can turn it off. Also, we've got a USA or Japan, I think is what this is, switch. Again, I haven't read the manual, and I don't really need most of these. I'll just be setting them and leaving them, because that's just kind of how I am. We've got a P and an N, which is PAL or NTSC, I believe. Aspect ratio, you can stretch it to fit 16:9, which is most modern LCD, LED TVs, or you can leave it at 4:3. If you leave it at 4:3, of course, you're going to have the black bars on the side because it doesn't fit natively a 16:9 monitor. And then a weird thing that most people mention is on the bottom, there's a PAL and NTSC switch. Of course, being in the United States, we'll be using NTSC. That's just kind of, I think it's your video refresh rate. It's a little bit slower in Europe. Here it's 60 Hertz. Okay, so yeah, that's the basic overview of the console. What you get in the box is your standard. You get your HDMI cable, you get an AV cable. This is for the older TVs, or you can use it on newer TVs too most of the time, but your output will look a lot cleaner on HDMI on a new TV. They also give you 2 controllers, which are pretty nice. They feel good in the hand. You can kind of, the buttons feel nice. They're not cheapy feeling. Like, that's my problem with like a Retron. The controllers are just so cheap feeling. but Hyperkin's getting better about it. But this thing just, it fits my hand good. There's these little grooves where my fingers go. You can choose between Nintendo and Sega layout for the buttons. So I'm assuming this is your basic Sega layout, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And for Nintendo layout, I think it's B, A, X, Y, X. And then you've got your L and R, of course, on top. Start and select. And your D-pad. D-pad feels pretty good. And I've used it. It works pretty well. I would say I will use my original console controllers probably as opposed to this. But still, nice to have. I'm not a fan of the plastic they use for this. It's just that kind of cheapy plastic. But this feels nice, and that's what counts to me. So 2 controllers. Okay, sorry about that. Had to take a break. I dropped the phone that I'm using to record all this. My first time doing this with 2 set up here. Got my phone resting on this weird thing up here. It's not very stable, but it's good. It's working now. So anyways, yeah, it comes with a power cord and a power plug, which is nice. The adapter, I would use this adapter as opposed to, something else, because I'm assuming it's made for this. It outputs 5 volts to 2000 milliamps, which is pretty good output. And of course you've got your micro USB, I believe it's called. Would have been nice to have USB-C, but we can't have everything. So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this baby in, display it, and switch over the camera. And we'll get some video of the screen. I'm not gonna do like a feed. I'm gonna do directly video of the screen as it looks. I'll run you through some different things. All right, so as promised, I'm going to capture some video straight from the screen. That way you can actually see how it looks, as opposed to like a straight video capture from HD. So I brought in some games. Some are, ones that are known to have issues on clone consoles. So, for instance, I have Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 3. It doesn't typically work on clone consoles like this because it has an extra chip that apparently only the NES can read and not the clone consoles. So I'm going to try this out, and then I'm going to try like a bootleg game for Nintendo. I've got a regular game for Genesis, Vector Man 2, and then I've got a bootleg game for it. I've got Turtles Hyperstone Heist bootleg. Because the original game costs a lot of money. This was like $20 from AliExpress or something. And then for Super Nintendo, I've got a couple games. One sort of normal, but it also has Mode 7 graphics in a few spots. Castlevania 4. And then a straight up Mode 7 Super FX chip game, Star Fox. We'll see how they play on this console, or if they play at all. So Dracula's Curse first. I'm gonna guess this probably won't work because it doesn't usually work in clone consoles like this. But we'll try it out and see what happens. And then I'll kind of go through the graphics with you, because I really think this is a nice console. The way it outputs the graphics and everything, very crisp for what it is. Well, yeah, it looks like maybe Dracula's Curse is not going to work on here. I'll try it one more time. I know the game's clean. I cleaned it recently and played it recently. So we'll see what happens. If I can get it to work. It probably won't work though. Oops, stuff's falling over in the background. One last try. Oh, it's working. That's surprising. Okay, so we'll see if it plays. There won't be sound because I don't have sound set up on this monitor. It doesn't have speakers. But man, it's working. That's surprising. That's really surprising. Well, we can see there's graphical problems there. This is kind of messed up. That's not supposed to look like that. But look how crisp and clear, it's just so crisp. This is such a nice console in HD, which, all the HD is done, processed in the console, which is nice, just like a Retron. People compare it to a Retron, but I really think this looks better. Both aesthetically on the outside, the console itself, the LED, which I spoke about, which as you can see, it's all lit up right now. I have the LED set to on. All the kind of, I don't know if you call it piping on the sides is lit up, and this right here is lit up. We've got red, pink, and blue, which is kind of cool. Anyways, back to the game. Yeah, I'm really surprised this is playing. I didn't expect it to. So yeah, let's play it, see how far we can get into it for a minute. I'm not going to play a lot of it, obviously. Name in. Okay. And you can see like the colors are displayed well, everything looks right. Like, I don't know what the palette is, you know, there's always different palettes for Nintendo games or Nintendo consoles. But yeah, look at that. It's pretty nice. Plays well. I'm using the included ClassiQ 3 controllers. They're nice. You can map them to NES, SNES, and Genesis. There's a little switch on the back. You can switch between modes. But yeah, it's playing. That's very surprising because this is a game that does not play on clone consoles. So yeah. As you can see, like, very nice crisp lines. All your colors are just coming through really nicely. Most of the time, you know, like I was using like a AV to HD up converter for to play my games out in the living room. So I'd bring out my console, hook the AV, you know, your red, white, and yellow cable to the HD upscaler, plug in HDMI from that to my TV, and then it just like, it would never display right. You had to choose between 720 and 1080 and it wouldn't fit right. Like, your colors would be off and there'd be black bars all over the place. But yeah, this is great. This is a great option. And at the price, you know, we have it for $89.99 here in the store at Classic Plastics. And for that price, usually you'll buy one, you know, retro console. Usually when we have them, we're carrying them, we bring them in, buy them, and clean them up and sell them. And they're usually about that price. So like for the cost of this ClassiQ 3, you're getting like 3 consoles in one. It can output regular AV for like regular old box CRT TVs, and it can output HD like this, straight to an HD monitor or a TV. So that's nice. The AV outputs actually enable you to play on an old TV. You can play stuff like Duck Hunt with the light gun. Light gun games are possible on this thing. Yeah, just overall a really nice console. So next up, I'm going to try a bootleg game. This is New Ghostbusters 2. Never released in the United States, unfortunately, but you can have it bootleg for like 20, 25, 35 bucks, whatever it is. Mine was like 25. Great game. We'll power it on, see if it boots up. So it'd be cool if this plays Castlevania 3 and bootleg games. It works, no problem. I've seen people too, I don't have an EverDrive, but people try EverDrives and they work on this console as well. But just look at this, like how crisp and clean this is. Like, this is just great HD output for this thing. I've seen Retron capture and it's not, to me it's not the greatest. This looks way better than that. So this game's cool because you can choose, you've got all 4 of your Ghostbusters. They even kept Winston, where usually Winston's taken out everywhere. And you can even play as Lewis. Like, you can have them as your main character, you can have them as your backup, because you can choose 2 Ghostbusters in this game. I'm going to have Lewis and Winston. And just like, there's no clipping. Like, a lot of times, you know, in HD, there's clipping or like ghosting, just like a lot of problems with the output. And this is just not having that. This is just great output video. So in this game, 1 zaps and 1 traps. So I've got Lewis up front, he's a zapper. And then we've got in the back Winston there, he's a trapper. So yeah, cool game. It plays bootlegs, that's cool. This is a nice console. Alright, so next up, moving on through. Next we'll try Genesis. And again, same controller, I'm just using, you know, the included ClassiQ 3 controller. It's not a bad controller at all. Like, quality is pretty good. The D-pad works well. So from here, I'm going to switch from Nintendo mode over to S, Sega. Changes the layout of your controller here. So this is actually the Sega controller layout, the actual right one, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Whereas Nintendo, NES, you've got B and A here, or B and A here. And then with Super Nintendo output, you've got B, A, Y, X, I think. But yeah, so next up, let's try Vector Man 2. Just a regular old Genesis game, nothing special about it. Shouldn't give us any problems. And now the power switch, I'll bring this down real fast. This is how you select your mode. So I have a Genesis game in here. Here's Genesis, and then for Super Nintendo you move it up one more, SNES, and then NES is on the end. You just slide it up, it's a slider. Your reset button's just like clicky, real nice. So yeah, Vector Man's playing, no problems. Looks nice. Now I will say the output on the Genesis and Super Nintendo games is slightly softer than the Nintendo output. Like, you know, you can still see your pixels and stuff, but it's kind of soft. Like, still looks really nice. Your colors are perfect. Like, it's just real nice. But yeah, this game plays. Cool. Controller works well for it. Works how it should. But yeah, like, look at the nice colors. Just looks great. Alright, moving on from Vector Man 2, that worked. So I've also got a bootleg game, like I said. Hyperstone Heist, bootleg, just cheapy $15, $20 bootleg. Oops, don't want to break it. So yeah, we'll try this, see if the bootleg Genesis works. Yep, there it is. Very nice. And again, like you can see, when things are scrolling, there's no like kind of clipping or ugliness. This is just real nice output. Real nice video output. Look at that. Look at the colors there. Yeah, it's cool. It's great. So yeah, bootleg games work too. That's nice. And like I said, I think EverDrive's work on this. I've watched other reviews. They just didn't cover certain things, so I wanted to cover things that they didn't cover. Bootleg games. I wanted to cover, you know, Castlevania 3 specifically. And it's really surprising that it worked. So this thing's just handling everything I'm throwing at it pretty much. Let's try now Super Nintendo, Castlevania 4. Again, just going to switch over my controller back to N, and then I'm going to pop this in the middle slot for Super Nintendo, and then I'm going to slide the slider switch for the power up to SNES, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, there it goes. So yeah, Castlevania 4 works. No problems. Moving on. Nothing special about that game, really. The mode 7 in that game is not until further in, like a few stages maybe, so I'm not going to mess with it. We're just going to hop right into the Super FX chip, Star Fox. So these games sometimes probably have issues on clone consoles because they have a special chip inside, extra graphics and whatnot. Alright, so we'll see if it boots up and plays here. Oops. On the ClassiQ 3 HD, and there it is. So yeah, all kinds of different stuff, all your options. Like it seems like it'll play like whatever you throw at it almost. And like I said, I've heard EverDrive's work. Other reviewers have shown that. Again, like I said, really nice output here. Good colors. The only problem I have is like maybe I can zoom it, but you can see it's like a slightly soft image on the pixels on like Super Nintendo and Genesis. But I mean, even then, like you can see all the pixels. Like it's not a problem. It looks really good. And just the convenience of this thing, you know, just like a Retron or any other clone console like that. Obviously, it's nice to have this where you can play 3 different consoles on one. But yeah, again, there's my review of that. I think that's pretty much all I'm going to cover. I was going to put in different controllers and stuff, but I feel like that's too much. I've already gone 12 minutes plus the other 10 that I've done. So, all right. Yeah, this is available here at Classic Classics, and we should be able to keep these in stock. They are $89.99. It's the ClassiQ 3 HD. It plays Super Nintendo, and Genesis games, and it does it beautifully. There you go. Thanks for joining me, guys. Maybe I'll see you again in the videos.